So let's dive into a world that is absolutely critical to medical breakthroughs,
Okay.
but rarely gets the spotlight.
Right.
Clinical data management.
Yes.
You know how we're always hearing about these like amazing new drugs and
Mhm.
treatments coming out?
Yeah.
Well, behind every one of those success stories
Right.
is a team of data management professionals
Yeah.
working tirelessly behind the scenes
Absolutely.
to make sure that the research data is rock solid.
It's true.
They're the unsung heroes.
Yeah.
Making sure that the data from these clinical trials is accurate,
Right.
complete, and most importantly, protects the privacy
Yeah.
of the participants.
Very important.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
we're lucky to have a fantastic guide for this deep dive.
Okay.
The Good Clinical Data Management Practices from the Society for Clinical Data Management.
Sounds like a great resource.
Yeah, this guide is like the ultimate handbook
Okay.
for anyone involved in clinical trials. We'll be pulling out the key principles.
Right.
Some interesting facts,
Yeah.
and maybe even some surprises along the way.
I think you'll be surprised by just how much goes into making sure the data from these trials is trustworthy.
All right.
From protecting patient privacy
Mm-hmm.
to meticulously planning out the entire data handling process.
Right.
There's a whole world of detail
Yeah.
that most people never see.
Well, let's pull back the curtain then, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
And since data privacy is such a hot topic these days, let's start there.
Okay.
The guide really stresses the importance
Right.
of protecting participant information.
Yes. Maintaining subject privacy is paramount.
Okay.
The guide really emphasizes minimizing the use of personal identifiers
Okay.
on all data collection instruments.
So obviously we're talking about things like names and social security numbers, right?
Yes, but it goes much deeper than that.
Okay.
Even things like lab reports or medical images
Right.
could contain unique identifiers. Think about a birthmark visible on a scan
Oh, wow.
or a rare genetic marker in a blood test.
Okay.
These could all be potentially identifying.
It's like those crime shows where like
Yes.
a seemingly insignificant detail
Uh-huh.
ends up cracking the case wide open.
Exactly. The data management team needs to be like detectives,
Okay.
making sure those potential clues are either removed
Right.
or masked to protect the individual's anonymity.
That makes sense. But if you're removing so much identifying information,
Right.
how do you even keep track of which data belongs to which participant?
Yeah.
It's like trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing.
That's where clever coding systems come in.
Okay.
Each participant gets a unique code,
Right.
allowing the team to connect their data
Okay.
without revealing their personal information.
Interesting.
Researchers can see the complete picture without knowing who the individual pieces represent.
Okay. That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
But what about situations where you need some demographic information? For the research, like a patient's age or gender.
Yeah.
How do you balance that need with the strict privacy requirements?
It's a delicate balance, for
Sure.
sure. The key is to collect the absolute minimum
Okay.
amount of identifiable information necessary.
Right.
And even then, it's handled with the utmost care and security.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, you'll find that many U.S. companies
Okay.
have adopted even stricter privacy standards
Really?
in response to regulations from the European Union.
Interesting.
So yeah, it's a really important consideration.
So it sounds like there's a ton of planning involved, even before you start collecting any data.
Absolutely.
And speaking of planning, the guide mentions something called
Yes.
a data management plan,
Huh?
or DMP.
Yeah.
What exactly is that?
The DMP is essentially the blueprint for handling data
Okay.
throughout the entire clinical trial.
So it outlines everything.
It outlines everything.
What type of data is being collected,
Yeah.
how it will be stored,
Yeah.
processed, even how it'll be archived at the end.
Exactly. It's like having a detailed roadmap
Right.
for the entire data journey.
So it's about more than just protecting privacy then.
It is.
It's about building a system
Yeah,
that guarantees that the data is accurate and reliable from
Yeah.
start to finish.
you got it.
The DMP isn't just a static document either.
No, it's not.
It evolves as the trial progresses.
Exactly.
And it involves everyone from the researchers and statisticians
Yes.
to the data managers and ethics committees.
It takes a village.
It's a team effort to ensure that everyone is on the same page
Right.
and follows the same rigorous standards.
Absolutely.
Wow, I'm starting to understand the level of preparation
Yeah.
that goes into these trials before a single participant even signs up.
It's extensive.
The DMP even outlines timelines
Yeah.
for key milestones in the study,
Right.
like first patient, first visit,
Uh,
and database lock.
Yes, very important.
Database locks.
Yeah.
Is that some kind of like digital vault?
Think of it as a crucial turning point.
Okay.
It's the moment when the database is finalized.
Okay.
And no further changes can be made.
So this marks the shift from data collection to the analysis phase.
Exactly.
Every piece of data,
Yes.
every lab report, every patient questionnaire
It all has to be there.
has to be in place and verified before they can even start crunching the numbers.
That's right.
That's pretty intense.
It is.
It makes me realize how much work goes into ensuring that the research results we see are built on a solid foundation.
Absolutely. And this meticulousness doesn't just benefit a single study.
Right.
It contributes to a larger movement towards standardizing clinical research data as a whole.
Okay.
The guide highlights the importance of initiatives like CDISC and HL7 in this effort.
Okay, you've got me curious now.
Right.
What are CDISC and HL7?
Imagine if every country spoke a different language.
Okay.
Communication would be incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
Well, that was the situation with clinical research data.
Oh.
Before these standards came along.
Interesting.
CDISC stands for Clinical Data Interchange Standards Consortium.
Okay.
And HL7 stands for Health Level 7 International.
So they're creating a universal language for clinical data.
Exactly. They develop standards for how data is collected, formatted, and shared.
Right.
It's like translating all those different research languages into a single one that everyone can understand.
That's a game changer.
It is.
What does this mean for researchers?
Yeah.
And ultimately for us,
Right.
the people who benefit from their discoveries?
Standardized data allows researchers worldwide to share and compare findings much more easily.
Right.
Imagine the possibilities.
Yeah.
It accelerates medical advancements by encouraging collaboration and reducing the need for redundant studies.
It's like building a global library of clinical research data.
That's a fantastic analogy.
That anyone can access and learn from.
I like it.
CDISC in particular has developed several key standards.
Yes, they have.
Like SDTM and ATOM, which we'll explore a bit later.
We will.
But before we get into those, I'm intrigued by something else. The guide mentions case report forms or CRFs.
Yes.
Are those just like
they are forms?
Fancy forms that doctors fill out during a trial?
But they're meticulously designed to capture all the necessary information in a standardized way.
So it's not just about collecting data, it's about collecting the right data in the right way.
Precisely.
So there's a science to designing these forms.
Absolutely.
CRFs are designed to minimize redundancy and prioritize directly measurable data over subjective interpretations.
That's right.
For instance, instead of asking a doctor if a patient has hypertension, they might ask for specific blood pressure readings over time.
Exactly.
So it's all about getting to the hard facts.
Precisely. And these forms have come a long way.
Oh, really?
We've gone from paper-based CRFs to electronic versions.
Okay.
Which has opened up a whole new world of possibilities.
What?
With electronic data capture, or EDC.
Right.
But we'll delve into that a bit later.
Sounds good. But first, I'm curious about something else the guide mentions.
Okay.
Edit checks.
Yeah.
Is that like having a grammar police for data?
Not exactly.
Okay.
Think of edit checks as programmed rules that automatically flag any inconsistencies or errors in the data.
All right.
They're like guardians of data integrity,
making
sure the information in the database is accurate and logically sound.
So they're basically automated fact checkers.
Precise.
For the trial data.
Yeah. They can spot things like illogical data entries.
Like what?
Imagine a pregnant male subject.
Okay.
Or data points that fall outside the expected range.
Okay, but what about data points that are unusual but not necessarily wrong?
Yeah.
How do you account for those?
That's where the distinction between hard and soft edit checks comes in.
Okay.
Hard edits flag errors that must be corrected.
Okay.
While soft edits highlight potential issues that need further investigation by the data management team.
So it's like a safety net.
Yes.
Catching both the obvious errors and the subtle inconsistencies that could skew the results.
Exactly.
And this level of scrutiny helps ensure that the data used to evaluate a drug's safety and effectiveness is as reliable as possible.
It does.
This is all really eye-opening. I'm starting to appreciate the immense effort that goes into ensuring
Yeah.
the reliability of clinical trial data.
It's a critical part of the process, and we've only just scratched the surface. There's
Right.
still much more to explore,
Okay.
like the fascinating world of EDC
Right.
and the ongoing pursuit of data quality throughout the entire trial.
Well, consider my curiosity officially piqued.
Right.
I'm ready to dive even deeper into this world.
Let's do it.
You mentioned electronic data capture before.
Why not?
I have to admit, the techie in me is really curious about this.
It's a game changer, for sure.
Okay.
EDC is revolutionizing how clinical trials are run.
Okay, paint me a picture here. I'm imagining those mountains of paper forms being replaced by sleek computer screens.
That's the basic idea. Instead of manually filling out paper CRFs,
Right.
data is entered directly into a secure electronic system. This means researchers can access data from multiple trial sites
Wow.
around the world almost instantly.
That's incredible.
It is.
Think about what that means for drug development,
Yeah.
potentially getting life-saving treatments
Right,
to
really.
patients faster.
Exactly. But the transition to EDC isn't as simple as just buying some new software.
Right.
There are a lot of factors to consider,
Okay.
like making sure each trial site is ready for the technology,
Right.
ensuring the data is secure, and, of course, training staff to use the system effectively.
It's a bit like switching from
Yeah,
a gas-guzzling car to an electric vehicle.
I like that.
You need to make sure you have the right infrastructure in place.
Right.
Charging stations, knowing how to use all the fancy new features
Yes.
on the dashboard.
That's a great analogy. And just like with electric cars,
Right.
there's a learning curve involved.
Yeah.
But the potential benefits are huge.
One thing that struck me in the guide was the emphasis on data quality with EDC.
Yeah.
It seems like the stakes are even higher
They are.
when you're relying solely on electronic records.
You're absolutely right. With paper forms, you at least have a physical backup if something goes wrong.
Yeah.
With EDC, the electronic record often becomes the source document.
Oh.
So if errors slip through during data entry,
Yeah.
there's no paper trail to double-check against.
So how do you make sure those errors don't happen in the first place?
Rigorous testing and validation of the EDC system are essential before it's even used in a trial. Think of it like making sure your car has passed all the safety inspections
Right.
before you take it out on the highway.
Speaking of data quality, it seems like that's a major theme.
It is.
Running through this entire guide.
Absolutely.
It's not just about collecting data.
Right.
It's about ensuring that data is accurate,
Yeah.
reliable, and consistent throughout the entire research process.
You've hit the nail on the head. Ensuring data quality is an ongoing process
Okay.
throughout the entire clinical trial, not just a final check at the end.
Right.
The guide even suggests using specific quantitative methods,
Okay.
like calculating error rates,
Right.
to measure data quality objectively.
So it's not just about trusting your gut. You're actually using data
Exactly.
to prove that the data itself is good.
You got it. If there are errors or inconsistencies in the data,
Right.
it could lead to inaccurate conclusions
Yeah.
about a drug's safety and effectiveness.
Right.
We can't leave anything to chance.
So it seems like CDM is all about eliminating guesswork
It is.
and replacing it with rigorous processes
Yes.
and objective measures.
Precisely. And the guide outlines two key roles in achieving that rigor:
Okay.
quality control, or QC, and quality assurance, or QA.
Wait, QC and QA?
Yeah,
Aren't those the same thing?
they're often used interchangeably.
Okay.
But there is a subtle but important difference.
Right.
Think of QC as the tactical,
Mhm.
on-the-ground checks that ensure the data is being collected and entered correctly.
Right.
QA, on the other hand, is the overarching strategy
Okay.
that ensures the entire system is designed to produce high-quality data from the start.
So QC is like inspecting each individual brick to
Right.
make sure it's sound,
Right.
while QA is making sure the blueprint for the entire building
Exactly.
is up
Like
to
a
code.
perfect analogy.
They work hand in hand to maintain data integrity
They do.
throughout the trial.
That's right.
The guide actually outlines specific procedures
Yeah.
for implementing these quality checks.
Right.
Standardized procedures, documented checklists, even plans for handling deviations from the protocol.
It's all there.
It's impressive.
It has to be in clinical trials.
Yeah.
Even small discrepancies can have significant consequences.
What happens if, despite all these checks and balances,
Yeah.
an error does slip through?
The impact depends on the nature and severity of the error.
Right.
The important thing is to have clear procedures for identifying,
Okay.
documenting, and correcting errors. And just as important, for preventing similar errors from happening again.
So it's not just about fixing the mistake.
It's not.
It's about learning from it and continuously improving the system.
Exactly. That's one of the things that makes CDM such a fascinating field.
Yeah.
It's constantly evolving, always looking for better ways to enhance data quality
Right.
and ensure the integrity of clinical trials.
You know, this reminds me of those acronyms we talked about before,
There.
CDISC and HL7.
Right.
You mentioned that CDISC specifically has standards for data handling and analysis.
I did.
Can we decode those a bit further?
Absolutely. One of the
Cool.
key standards developed by CDISC
Okay.
is the Study Data Tabulation Model,
Okay.
or SDTM.
Right.
It's essentially a set of rules for organizing and formatting the data collected during a trial.
So it's like creating a universal filing system.
A great way to put it, SDTM makes sure data is presented in a clear and consistent way,
Right.
regardless of where the trial was conducted
Okay.
or what software they used. This makes it much easier for researchers and regulatory agencies to analyze and compare data from different studies.
It's all starting to make sense now.
Good.
CDISC is like the architect designing a universal language for research.
I like it.
And SDTM is the grammar that makes sure everyone is speaking that language correctly.
Because CDISC also has another standard
Okay.
called the Analysis Dataset Model, or ADAM,
Right?
which focuses on preparing data for statistical analysis.
Okay.
It ensures that data is structured in a way that's ready for number crunching.
So SDTM is like organizing all the raw ingredients.
Yes.
And Adam is prepping them for the chef to cook up.
I like that.
Some meaningful insights.
Delicious analogy.
These standards are becoming more and more important as the world of clinical research
They are.
embraces technology and data sharing.
Absolutely. It's essentially...
It's like building a global network of knowledge
Yes.
where researchers can collaborate and learn from each other's findings.
It's very exciting.
It's exciting to think about the potential for medical breakthroughs in the future.
It truly is a remarkable time for clinical research, and CDM plays a crucial role
Right.
in ensuring that the data driving these advancements is of the highest quality.
Before we move on, I'd like to touch on one more topic
Yeah.
that caught my eye in the guide.
Right.
Laboratory data.
Yes.
It seems like that's a whole other challenge within CDM.
You're right. It is. Lab data often comes from external sources,
Right.
like central labs or specialty labs,
Okay.
which adds another layer of complexity to data management.
So you're not just dealing with data entered by researchers at the trial site.
No, you're not.
You're also integrating data from different labs all over the world.
Exactly. And each lab might have its own systems,
Right.
formats, and even units of measurement.
Oh, wow.
The data management team has to harmonize all of this data, ensuring it's consistent and accurate before adding it to the main database.
That sounds like a logistical nightmare.
It can be. The guide stresses the importance of clear communication and data transfer agreements with these labs. They need to establish standardized procedures for sending, receiving, verifying, and integrating the data into the main database.
So it's like building a network of pipelines
Yes,
that ensure the data flows smoothly and reliably from the labs to the researchers.
that's a great way to think about it. And of course, data security is paramount,
Right.
especially when dealing with sensitive medical information.
You know, this whole conversation is making me realize that CDM is more than just
It is.
about numbers and databases.
Yes.
It's about building relationships and fostering collaboration
It is.
between all the different players in the clinical trial process.
It absolutely is. It's about creating a system where everyone involved,
Right.
from the researchers to the lab technicians to the data managers, is working together to ensure the integrity of the data and ultimately the safety and well-being of the participants.
It's a powerful reminder that behind every medical breakthrough, there's a team of dedicated individuals working diligently behind the scenes.
That's true. And those individuals, the data managers,
right.
often don't get the recognition they deserve.
Well, I think this deep dive is helping to shine a light on their critical work.
I hope so.
Now, I'm really curious to hear more about patient-reported outcomes.
Why?
It seems like that's where the human element of clinical research
It is.
really comes into play. So patient-reported outcomes, or PRO,
Yes.
this is where we get to hear directly from the patients.
Exactly. It's about capturing their experiences,
Right.
their perspectives on how the treatment is affecting them.
So it's not just about like the objective data, like blood pressure readings
No,
or tumor size. It's about how the patient feels.
it's about their quality of life,
Okay.
their symptoms, their side effects.
Yeah. It's fascinating to think about how you capture those personal experiences
Right.
and incorporate them into the data analysis.
Yeah.
It's not like you can just plug someone's feelings into a spreadsheet.
It's definitely more nuanced than that the guide talks about a range of methods for capturing PRO,
Okay.
from traditional paper questionnaires
Hey.
to more sophisticated electronic tools called EPRO.
So you've got everything from like pen and paper
Yeah,
to tablets and smartphone apps.
that's right.
I can imagine patients like tracking their symptoms and side effects right on their phones.
You're right on the mark. EPRO is becoming increasingly popular
Okay.
because it offers some real advantages.
Like what?
Think about real-time data collection. You have fewer errors
Mm-hmm.
and even the ability to send reminders to patients so they don't forget to complete their assessments.
That makes sense. No more lost questionnaires.
Exactly.
Or missed entries.
Yeah.
It's like having a virtual research assistant right in your pocket.
Exactly. But the guide also points out that EPRO isn't a magic bullet.
Yeah.
You have to consider things like whether all patients have access to the technology.
Right? Could be a barrier for some people.
It could.
How to keep the data secure.
Yes. Very important.
And making sure the tools are user-friendly.
Yes, especially for older patients or those with disabilities.
So choosing the right PRO method really depends on the specific trial.
It does.
Of the people participating in it.
It does. Researchers have to carefully weigh the benefits
Right.
of electronic tools against the potential challenges and costs.
It makes me wonder, how do they even decide what questions to ask
Yeah.
in these PRO assessments?
Right.
Is there like a science behind crafting those questionnaires?
There is. It's a whole field called psychometrics,
Okay.
which combines psychology and statistics.
Interesting.
The goal is to design questionnaires that reliably and accurately measure
Right.
the specific things researchers are interested in,
Okay.
such as pain levels, quality of life, or how satisfied patients are with the treatment.
So it's not just about asking the right questions.
No, it's not.
It's about asking them in a way
Yes.
that gets meaningful and consistent responses.
You got it. Everything matters.
Wow.
The wording of the questions, the order they're asked in,
Right.
even the response options provided.
Okay.
It's like composing a piece of music,
Okay.
where each note contributes to the overall harmony.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
It makes PRO sound more like an art
It is in a way.
and a data collection method.
It's about capturing the nuances of human experience.
Right.
And turning those experiences into data
Okay.
that can be used to inform clinical research
Right.
and ultimately improve patient care.
It's a good reminder that behind all the numbers and statistics,
Yes.
there are real people
Absolutely.
whose lives are affected by the outcomes of these trials.
That's what it's all about.
And the guide really emphasizes treating all data,
It does?
including PRO,
Yes.
with the utmost care and respect.
Absolutely.
It's about making sure the patient's voice is heard and valued throughout the research process.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, we've certainly covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
From data privacy and planning to the incredibly detailed processes of data capture,
Yeah.
cleaning, and quality assurance.
Right.
It's giving me a whole new appreciation for the complexity of clinical data management.
Me too. It's a challenging
Yeah.
but incredibly important field.
I agree. The next time I read about a medical breakthrough,
Yeah.
I'll definitely be thinking about the data managers.
Me too.
Work behind the scenes to make sure the research was sound.
They're the unsung heroes.
They are. And for anyone who wants to delve deeper into this topic,
Yes.
I highly recommend checking out the full Good Clinical Data Management Practices Guide.
It's a great resource.
It's a treasure trove of information.
It is.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the world of clinical data management.
Sounds good.
Until next time,
All right.
keep learning and stay curious.
I will. You too.